Anyway, my name is Jason Vaughn of Higher Hope Balloons. You guys ready to have some fun tonight? Raise your hand and say yes. Woo! All right, now, so I give you the prince that no one wanted. Long ago, there was a kingdom, and that kingdom was beautiful. It was kept immaculately clean. And the people of that kingdom were so happy. They had nothing to fear in the world. But then one day, I need a volunteer. One day, came a frog. What's your name? Ethan? Ethan the frog. Give Ethan the frog a round of applause. Frog was not very nice. This is when you ribbit. I think that sick fish is catching. And he went and got all the kids of the town and had them come, because there was one rule in this town, and that was do not play near the dam, because the dam kept back all the water. And so he went and told all the kids, you know, it's a lot of fun over there. There's a lot of fun things to do. There's a lot of balls to play with. There's a lot of toys and dolls. And so all the kids started following the frog. And they all got behind and they played leapfrog. I won't try because I might kill him. So anyway, they all leaped over to the dam. And when they got there, they were playing, and all of a sudden, one little beam got knocked out of place, and the entire dam began to fall, and water rushed everywhere, and then everything in the town was covered. You can stand up, go stand over there. Everything in the town was covered in mud. So this immaculate town was covered in mud, but then there was a great king of this kingdom. I'm going to trade you hats. How do I look? There we go. And this king had a son. This king had a son. And he sent, because everything in the town was covered in mud, all the cleaning supplies were covered in mud. So you can't clean anything if everything's dirty. So the prince went down and he began to clean. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. But the people of the town had been dirty for so long, they started to enjoy the mud. And so, they kicked the prince out. And many years passed. And then a little girl was born. I need a little girl. John Weber, come here. And like everything else, Joanna was also covered in mud. Even her beautiful hair. But Joanna didn't even realize, because everything had always been dirty, until one day, Joanna was out. And she was hopping and skipping. And she came across a book. A book. A book. But this was no normal book, because everything else in town was covered in mud, except for this book.
This book is clean. This book is clean.
And no matter what she did, she touched it with her muddy hands. She found it in the mud, but yet it would not get dirty. It stayed pure and white. Now she began to read the book. But she had a little hard time understanding it, so she began to go and to find people to help explain it to her. And she started going around, and she came across a variety of different people. I need a volunteer. Let's see. Well, they just look real nice. They would smile from ear to ear. And you know what? They would hold up that book, and they would talk about it, but they never seemed to actually read it. They never actually seemed to talk about anything in the book. And so Joanna realized she couldn't face them. Show them your big smile. That's right. She couldn't find anything out from this person. And so she left. And she went to another place where they talked about this book. Let's see, I need somebody else. And in this place, everyone looked really nice. They were very sharp looking, and it even looked like like some of them had managed to get rid of some of their dirt. And they talked about the book too. But whenever they talked about it, they said things like, if you want to understand this book, then you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this, and do, and do, and do, and do, and do this. But if you looked a little bit closer, you would see that they weren't really cleaned up at all, and that even they were still covered in dirt. So Joanna continued her search. And she looked for a long time. But then one day, as she was walking along, she came across the village idiot. He was called the village idiot because he would stand on the street corner and he would talk about the book too. And he would say things like, you can't clean up yourself. And eventually, Joanna stopped and listened to the fool and realized he was no fool at all. But yet, somehow, he was the only one who seemed to know about this book. And as he explained this book, Joanna began to believe it. She began to believe about this prince that had come and tried to clean, but that no one wanted. And as she was doing this and listening, a dove came. A dove came. And she began to understand the book. So the dove flew in. Do you guys fly? You're a dove, not a dove. Flew in. And began to explain that now that Joanna had understanding of this book, that she could come into the kingdom. And so Joanna started to follow the dove as they flew. Joanna couldn't fly, so Joanna walked behind. But sometimes they would have to go up very rocky and hard cliffs, so they would climb. You guys climb? So they would climb really high. But eventually, they made it. They made it to the top in this beautiful castle. And Joanna went up and knocked on the door.
That door?
Sure. And when they knocked on the door, a very tall angel came to the door. A very tall angel opened the door. Opened the door all the way. And stepped outside. And stopped Joanna from going in. Because you see, Joanna was still covered in mud. And so the angel held up a mirror to Joanna. And Joanna could see that she was covered in mud and that she would never be able to enter the kingdom like this. And so she was very sad. She was very, very sad. She was crying and weeping loudly. But then the prince came to the door. The prince opened the door and said, "Joanna, you can come in." And he touched Joanna, and all of a sudden, her hair was no longer covered in mud, but beautiful red locks. And her wardrobe was no longer mud, but instead was the whitest clothes that you had ever seen. And she asked the prince, "Where did you get it?"
Where did you get it?
And the prince exclaimed that it was his. And so Joanna entered the kingdom, and there she reigned with the king and the prince forevermore. Give them all a round of applause. Guys, that's a little bit shortened version of what I normally do, but I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that you can walk away, even through all the humor, that you can see some truth in it, because like Joanna, we were all born covered in mud. We're all born covered in, but it was worse than mud because it was sin. And our King sent His Son. But He didn't just come to clean, because that wasn't good enough, because the only thing that could clean this up and all that mud and all that sin was His blood. And so He shed that blood on a cross. And then He rose to reign as King. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have not been cleaned up, not by trying to do something yourself and look good on the outside, but if you have not come to this King, to this Prince, and given everything that you are and said, "I repent, I can't do anything. I'm turning from my sins and I'm trusting in Jesus Christ alone," then do that now. Do that tonight. Talk with our elders, talk with Scott, talk with someone here, because that is the most important thing. We come, we celebrate, we have fun. We are the most joyous people on the planet. But that joy you will never know if you do not repent and come to Christ. So ladies and gentlemen, again, my name is Jason Vaughn of Higher Hope Balloons. Thank you for your time.
I just finished watching the Jason Vaughn's Higher Hope Balloon Show, and it was incredible. It made me think, it made me laugh, it made me cry. It definitely made an impression on me. You should watch it too.